All right, mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's make sure the mic is working here. Mic check 1 2 1 2. All right, mic check 1 2 1 2. All right, perfect. we def Perfect. We got the mic going right now. All right, everybody. Good morning. I'm gonna get on the camera in a second. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about Khamzat screaming Allahu Akbar, and then Dricuss Duplessis getting booed out of Chicago. It doesn't surprise me. I tell you what, there is a religious and political component as to why Dricuss got booed out of Chicago. Now, for those of you that don't know, Chicago is obviously, well, it's an African American city, okay, but it's also a Muslim city. There's also a lot of Arabs that live in Chicago, as well as African Americans, and many of them are of Muslim descent. So, being that they are of Muslim descent, it is obvious that they are going to root for Khamzat, right? A lot of these people are Bilal Muhammad fans who are now Khamzat Shemaev fans, right? It's sort of like, all right, let's say you live in Liverpool in the UK, right? And let's say Everton doesn't do good, but then you have Liverpool FC to look forward to, kind of like those things, right? So uh, bear with me for a second. I'm going to be on live in just about, well, I am live right now, but I mean within the camera. So I'm just setting up the lights right now, and we're going to get this on and cracking at the break of dawn right now. So here we go, guys. Here we go. Very excited for UFC 319. Obviously, a very big card ahead of us. So, yeah, man, exciting things. Oh, hold on. What else do I need here? I'm gonna need to get my coffee real quick. Okay. And while I talk to you guys, I am on my headphones as a microphone, so I will be on with you guys in just a second. So, all right. So let me preface this a little bit. Okay. So, all right. Yesterday, watching the press conference, right? As I'm watching the press conference, I thought to myself, you know what? It will be really interesting to see who gets the hometown advantage here. I mean, considering the fact that both of these men are foreigners, obviously, uh, Dricuss coming from a background of, let's say, South Africa. Okay, I don't know of any South African contingency that goes on, right? I don't know of any of them that live in let's say that part of the world, right? South Africans. Now, are there Chechens that live there? Uh Not a lot, not as much as you would have Arabs. So okay, it is a Muslim populated area, right? Obviously, if you guys know anything about rap music, Old Block, Little Dirk and King Von, the block that they come from, I mean, a notorious place, right? Just nothing but straight gangsters that live over there. But on any regard, uh, many of them have converted to Islam in that part of Chicago. So something to think about there. So okay, obviously, I think it spells out that Kamzat is going to be the head, um, the one who's going to have favorable, uh, being favorable towards the crowd, right? Look, none of them are hometown guys, but if anybody's going to be a hometown here, it would probably be Kamzat Shemaev, right? Just based on that alone. But not just UFC 319, we also got Moses Itauma taking on Dillian Whyte. Now, this is Dillian Whyte's return, and I got to tell you, it's a tough return for him to go on, right? So, okay, I'm ready to get on camera right now. Here we go. All right. So, a good morning, everybody, right now. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. This fight is going to be awesome, really awesome. Uh, this is one of those fights where we're trying to figure out who is who. What do I mean by who is who? What is Khamzat like in the later rounds when he gets tested? What is Dricuss like when somebody finally figures out that his unorthodox style can be countered by conventional and traditional means of technique? I told you guys that the way that Khamzat shoots in for a takedown, the way that he, strikes, it's very fast, very explosive, right? Can Dricuss handle that? Does Dricuss? We know Dricuss has a gas tank. We've seen it against Sean Strickland, but it was a gas tank that was predicated on the fact that he knows how to fight with efficiency. Now, Khamzat, on the other hand, he's not going to allow you to have any type of efficiency in any kind of way. He's not going to let you rest. He's not going to give you any moments of breaks. He's going to continue to be on you like Whyte on rice. And that's just the real bottom line about it. So what do you do in that process? Well, what you do in that process is that you have to, I don't know what Dricuss is going to do in that situation, right? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see how Dricuss is going to win this in any way, but the fact that I'm saying that makes this matchup even more compelling as it is, if you really think about it. Now, Dricuss, on the other hand, he's got a lot of unorthodox styles that I don't think Khamzat Chimaev can train for. But Khamzat has this one style that I think beats everybody. Okay, it is strength with technique and strength with speed and efficiency of technique all rolled into one. Now, notice I mentioned speed and strength. I never mentioned stamina. Well, that is what we're trying to figure out with Khamzat Chimaev. Does he have the stamina to withstand somebody like Dricuss du Plessis? The question is, does Khamzat Chimaev have the efficiency to deal with somebody like that? And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to have to say yes. Look, if you guys know anything about Sam Calvillo, he knows how to train fighters in this particular matter. Marty Miller, what's up, my man? How you doing? All right. Now we're about to get this party on and popping right now. Hope everything is good. What did you think of the face-off? I think that the face-off was pretty cool in a way where I was waiting to see how long it would take for Khamzat Chimaev to scream Allahu Akbar. And I got to tell you, I'm quite happy that Khamzat is doing this. I know that a lot of people, are turned off by this. I've heard Bilal Muhammad himself even made jokes about it, saying, "Oh, well, this guy's over here. He's saying Allahu Akbar. He's making us, Muslims look bad or this and that." I disagree with Bilal Muhammad's American-centric point of view, right? The reason why I say I disagree with him is because, look, when you, as an American, and you see somebody scream Allahu Akbar, it's usually in a couple of places that you would hear somebody scream Allahu Akbar. Okay? Usually, I'm just going to say it like this, right? It comes out of a negative context and a negative situation, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay? You know what I'm talking about. By the way, how strange is it? Here's a strange fact, right? This is my 911th video. Think about that. Imagine the symbolism behind that, right? My 911th video is Khamzat screaming Allahu Akbar at Dricuss du Plessis. I need you to think about that. So now it's sort of shifting the narrative. It's sort of like with African Americans using the N-word, right? When you use the N-word, it is a negative context, especially if you use it with a R in the end. Well, now what Khamzat is doing is reclaiming that word, okay, into something positive, somewhat of a hero to a lot of people. Look, man, Khamzat is not just a hero to a lot of Muslim kids around the world, to a lot of Chechens, a lot of Arabs, a lot of Muslims in the South Asian Pacific. He is also a hero to white American kids who wrestle out of Ohio, Iowa, Texas, and California. And I know this for a fact because I've been around, different types of wrestlers, and I still keep in touch with them to this day. I see their kids. I see, the competitions that they get into, and as a result of that, yeah. Let me read some of these comments. This is going to get interesting right here. Okay, so let's go back up top with Marty Miller. So when he asked me about what I thought about the face-off, then he says, I wanted to ask you about that. You're the first person I thought of when I saw that. Okay, so when he screamed Allahu Akbar, that's why I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this and put a thumbnail with Khamzat saying Allahu Akbar. And you know what? Not only that, it's my 911th video. My 911th video is Khamzat screaming Allahu Akbar. Now we can absolutely associate this with something a lot more positive than something that was, very negative. So Fresh Melon Juice says, LOL, Dana said, no, we're trying to sell tickets. Hey, don't you worry about that, Fresh. These guys are in Chicago. This is a Muslim town. And if it's a Muslim town, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with them screaming Allahu Akbar. Marty Miller says, yeah, that's the most what people associate with. Yes, the world thinks about 9/11 when they scream that. They do, but you know what? Nobody has really heard, the hijackers scream that while they were doing it, right? Maybe they did, but I mean, I don't know. No one ever heard it. But I tell you what, the most that people will see, those types of Muslims screaming that is usually in the battlefield. You ask any Iraq war veteran who's been in Fallujah, who's been in Iraq, who's been in Afghanistan, right? This is a common thing that they will hear from them. So Lynn says, I give you a pass. All right, shout outs to you. Uh, okay, this guy was you guys praise a guy who married a child in Muslim countries, push Sharia law. Khamzat left his country at war and fled to Europe. Okay, so to answer that question, understand this, right? The Prophet Muhammad did not meet uh, her at, I mean, the Prophet Muhammad did not marry her at an age that was inappropriate. You guys are reading into Western propaganda. The Prophet Muhammad met Aisha, yes, at a young age, but did not marry her until she was in her late teens and 20s. So we're talking about 18, 19 to 20, right? So I think there's a lot of historical context there that is missing. Fresh Melon Juice says it would have worked better if Khabib or Islam did it, not Khamzat who hangs around with. Wow. Okay, so explain to me what makes Khamzat more of a terrorist sympathizer than that of Khabib, because let's be honest, you know, they both hang out with the same people. I think Khamzat is just more welcoming towards the gifts that the Ramzan Kadyrov gives them. Aisha was 6 says, but they, the Jews, were deceptive and Allah was deceptive, for Allah is the best of all deceivers. Okay, so your God. Okay, well, we all have the same God, Aisha. So Lynn says, Chirac. All right. Are you secure from Allah's position? Okay. So they schemed and yeah, okay. So Mr. Don says Muhammad 9 year old. She wasn't 9 when they married. Okay, this is a wrong contextual context that you guys are talking about. So mm, um, do you know Arabic? I know some. Fresh Melon Juice says, I talked to an old friend after 9/11, a Muslim, and he said, Akbar on the phone, happy that the U.S. was attacked. a normal civilian Muslim living in the Western world. Well, I tell you what, right? So many of the grievances in 9/11, and I'm not saying that I agree with it, but if you look at the manifesto of Osama bin Laden, many of it was predicated on what had happened in Palestine. But I urge you guys to take a look at that. That's actually, yeah, a known fact. Mr. Don says, okay, we read that part. So why do Muslims now marry kids? Well, okay, so to answer that question, Aisha, right? uh, in other places in the world, they have their own cultural understanding of what they think is right. It has nothing to do with Islam. It has nothing to do with the orthodox practices of Islam. In fact, it is just an abomination to marry anybody who is so young that they have no understanding or any type of understanding of the world. I mean, look, I'm in gyms and all of that, I'm around, people that are in their 20s, and I'm like thinking, man, some of the, I'm not saying that they're reprehensible, but, their mind is just not in the same, stratosphere as somebody who's in their mid 30s, right? So I don't know, man. Aisha says this guy is literally trying to manipulate. I don't know about that, man. So okay, he says here, Sahih Brooklyn, this man thinks we are stupid. No, I'm actually having, a civil discourse with you. I think that you are just trying to, create your own narrative just to feel better about your own opinions of things. But, like I said, I'm here to welcome freedom of speech. I told you guys that I am a freedom of speech advocate, right? As a Muslim man, I am a freedom of speech advocate because if you're going to be a Muslim and you're going to believe in this particular matter of religious doctrine, you better be ready to defend it. You better be ready to know things about it in order to, rebuttal situations like this. So Aisha says, bro, let's go live and read the Quran together. Um, Ja says, I think the chat is confusing Muhammad with Mobzar. Mobzar, what does that mean, Ja? Mr. Don says she was 6 when married and 9 when taken. That's completely unfactual. Aisha says, bro, this guy's trying to manipulate. I don't know about that. Truth Seeker says, yo, man, assalamu alaikum, just ignore them. They are trying to rage bait out of you. They're not going to rage bait me. I'm going to tell you why, Truth Seeker. The reason why you're not going to rage bait me is because I've already been into these types of conversations over the years. Okay, I practiced Islam straight for 20 years, right? 20 years straight, like with no, indication of any, kuffar or any indication of steering away or anything like that. I studied Islam in Egypt. Okay, I've studied Islam here in the United States, and and in the mosques and things of that nature, right? Like you're not going to get me into a rage bait situation with these things because I already know the narrative. I already know the talking points. So yeah, he says, show us it's false. You're doing all you're doing is talking. Well, no kidding, right? This is a talk show, so that's kind of what you do. You lied and tried to make it seem like Muhammad didn't marry a child. Well, he didn't. That's not what the chronological order says in the Hadith, right? In the description of Aisha when she was married, right, it described everything that to be of somebody that was, that was, what do you call it? Somebody that was 18, 19, or in their 20s. So, hold on, let me see here. Here we go, right here. I believe the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, married Aisha at 6 and he consummated marriage at 9. I have zero problem with that at all. Let's see here. Forceful explaining the age of Aisha radiallahu anha and the marriage to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Well, I had to make it serious because this argument is non-stop. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the age of expectancy was from 25 to 35 years old.
And at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 1,400 years ago, there were no schools, no university. So when people get physically mature, they just get married. So please don't go back in the time and judge something. Part one of explaining the age of Aisha radiallahu anha and the marriage to the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay. So let's see here. Right here. Okay. I want you guys to watch this right here. Okay. So, is this a UFC channel or a religious channel? It's a UFC channel, but because Khamzat screamed out Allahu Akbar, we are here to talk about certain things that sort of relate to that matter. You can't even go live and read the Quran in Arabic with me. This is not your show for you to dictate what you want to do or this, that, and the other. But I'm still going to engage with you in any kind of way. Fresh Melody says Khabib used to say Alhamdulillah, but he wasn't aggressive about it. Khamzat is not saying it correctly. Alhamdulillah means, I'm thankful for God. Allahu Akbar means, God is great. Truth Seeker says Aisha was sick. Sure, let's go read. Aisha, prove it to us and not a fact. Who's trying to rage bait? It's the truth. Show us it's all your false doing. Okay, so Mr. Mobzar Evloev and his views on grooming young kids. Truth Seeker says, yes, it's true. I don't disagree with you. Aisha was 6. Now it's time to look at why he did. He says, prove to us. Okay, now you're spamming right here. Aisha, but that's fine. You're helping me with my algorithm anyway. Aisha was 6. If you want to talk about the Quran, literally says nowhere near the Quran that Aisha was 6. Truth Seeker, anyways, this is a religious debate or a UFC stream. It could be either. But obviously, it's Mobzar's channel today. Okay, numbers 13, 17. Okay, so here we go, right here. So if any sister has any question, they're most welcome to ask. Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A few days before, there was an article on 10th of May in Hindustan Times with regards to Hazrat Aisha was 19, not 9. Can you just throw some light on that? Sister asked a question that there was an article that came in Times of India, Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. Her age was 19 and not 9 when she got married. Can I throw some light on that? It's really the hadith in Bukhari which Aisha, the Quran has nothing in there about that. Is Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. She was married to the Prophet at the age of 6, and the marriage was consummated at the age of 9. Now, there are many so-called modern scholars who feel that it's not possible. That's the reason the child justify. And they say that actually the statement is 19 because in Arabic we add an ashra. So this is ashra, the 10 is missing. We said 10, 9 for 19. But the 10 is missing, therefore it sounds to be 9. Actually it should be 19. This is the assumption. But what we believe that after the Quran, alhamdulillah, is the saying of the Prophet Muhammad. And we have to check whether the hadith is sahih. So you see, the first thing that this guy talks about is the language interpretation of no, you're not going live with me because I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? You can't just come in here and demand that you come in here. You don't have a public profile. Number one, you don't have a channel. Number two, number three, I don't know who you are, and number four, you're not really saying anything that is unusual or that is, out of the norm or something that I've never heard of. So, all those ingredients just proves that you're just a fan, right? And on top of that, it's kind of unusual that you screen name yourself that, for whatever reason, but it's all good. Bro, you guys deceive like there's only one God, bro. It's the God of Abraham, the God of Moses, the God of Jesus, the God of Prophet Solomon, all of that, right? So number one, here's one thing that this guy's talking about, right? There's a difference in the language expression in Arabic, right? When they said 9, they really meant 19 in what was said in the context. So look, A 9-year-old today is the same as what a 9-year-old was back then, and they're very immature. And on top of that, there's nothing that you could do with them, right? So it is a lot more plausible that she was at 19 at that age. So I grew up Muslim. I know Arabic. Let's go live. No, let's not. Okay, so you're saying you were a former Muslim. Okay, you know how many stories I hear about that of like former Muslims of like what's that Somali lady's name Hershey or something. Um, let's see here. Bukhari Muslim Aisha marriage. The messenger married me when 6 years old. And that okay. And then Aisha states the messenger of Allah married me when I was. Yeah, no, that's not that's highly inaccurate. Melon is very educated for a 14-year-old. I doubt that he's 14 years old, but you could be anybody here, just like Aisha here says that he's a former Muslim or this, that, and the other. But on any regard, yeah, listen to this.
Or not. And we realize that this hadith of Sahih Bukhari, and alhamdulillah, it's authentic hadith. But how can we logically prove today? Now, those scholars, inverted commas, who when they cannot prove logically any part of the Quran and the hadith, they try and say there is some mistake in the assumption and the meaning is different, etc. What we have to realize that first we have to check
Saeed says Allahu Akbar.
whether they are authentic or not.
Aisha says he listens to TikTok, not his scholars.
If it's authentic,
Khamzat for the title.
if we cannot prove it logically, we have to feel and we have to understand that the science hasn't advanced so much to try and make us understand the hadith of the verse of the Quran. So based on this again, what I believe that hadith is
all right. So to end it once and for all, right? That hadith that Fresh Melon Juice is talking about is not an authenticated hadith. That's not an authenticated hadith. Now, listen, I think what this guy is saying makes a lot more sense. Okay, married at 19, not at 9. That's the end of the story. Jake Furman, bores all day. Shout out to you, my man. Now go to the debate with Sam. I'm not going to go to a debate with what you asked me to do. I'm not here to follow orders from you. You're not even looking for the truth, but being ignorant. No, what you are doing is you are trying to stir up the pot so that you can feel better about yourself. You literally make a screen name based on falsehood, and that's really all there is to it. I can't. It's like talking to an effing wall. Well, I don't have to really address anything that you say. Like, you're lucky. Listen, Aisha, listen, you're lucky that I'm even allowing you to say these things, right? Like, I'm giving you a platform right now that you've never had in your whole entire life. Okay, yeah, that's why Muslims till this day still marry. Who? Do I do that? Do any of my friends or my homies who are Muslims do that? Do any of the people in the chat here do that are Muslim? If you are, please let me know, right? So, Fresh Melon Juice says change the subject, Kyrie. Yeah, man. It's not really a big deal. It's not something that I'm offended by or anything like that. But yeah, man, that's fine. I told you guys I'm all for freedom of speech, right? I'm all for freedom of speech, but you have to prove to me otherwise, right? You can't just prove to me with your bravado by saying, yeah, I'm going to come on and go on a live with you and do a reading, together, this, that, and the other. That's not how, this works, man. So Jake Furman says, non-Muslim here. I think Shemaev is an inspiration to all people. It makes me sad people let their hatred cloud their judgment about him. Yeah, man. Shout outs to Jake on that one, man. You know what? I'm going to pin your comment right there, Jake. Shout outs to Jake, man. Let me know what part of the world you are from, because this is crazy. What's crazy? Like, do you think that you're saying anything that is anything new? Look, there's a chronological differences in your interpretation versus the interpretation of the age. Also, you are misinterpreting the age of when a person met someone versus the age of when somebody actually married somebody. Okay, now for example, I got a few homies that I've trained with since they were like really young, right? Really young. And Is it fair to say that I sparred with them when they were, let's say, 9 years old, right? Versus if I was to say 9 years later when they became 18, then I sparred with them. Okay, think about that, right? I sparred a 9 year old. Okay, but that's highly inaccurate. The reason why that's highly inaccurate is because I trained with this kid when he was 9, but I didn't spar with him until he was 18. You understand what I'm saying? He says, I'll spar any of you and post it on here. Man, listen, man, what you don't even have a public profile for me to, look up who you are. For all I know, you could be, a Mossad agent, posing, in Tel Aviv or something. I don't know. But yeah, you're an MMA fan? Yes, I am. Obviously, it's an MMA channel, but shout outs to LW Fitness. Ja says, Mr. Jake, are you referencing what I said? Okay. Jake Furman says, from the U.S. West Coast. All right, man, we got some West Coast in the house right here. California represent up in here. Is that what part of the West Coast you're from? Are you from California? Let me know. Khamzat will destroy DDP. I agree. Saad El Marab says, Aish, go wash your dishes. There you go. You guys need to do some push ups. F, go spar. I'll spar any of you. We can spar. What gym? Tiger Schulman's 8 years training. Okay, very nice. Fresh Melendry says, modern scholars propose Aisha was older, but the claims are less supported by primary sources. Okay, well, that's your own interpretation. Where is your gym? Jake Furman says, have you seen Adam Sataya versus Yoel Romero Olympic match? No, I haven't. What about it? What about that specific Olympic wrestling match that you were talking about? Aisha says, you are out of shape, my guy. Listen, I don't think you've seen any of my training videos, have you? Like, do we have to do this again? Like you saying that I'm out of shape, bro? Listen, I don't think you're even in the same level as I am. But all right, listen, we're gonna do this again, okay? And prove to you once and for all that you are nowhere near in the level of shape that I am. Okay, first of all, can you do this? Oh, let me turn off the music on this one. Look at this. Oh, music. I'm not Pakistani or Bangladeshi. I'm half Arabic and half Islander. He says, yeah, I'm from California. I wasn't actually referencing anything said in the chat with what I said about Chimaev. Okay. Uh, that don't mean shit. Okay, well, All right. So listen, uh tra- all right. So on any regard, okay, bro, replay it so I can screen record it. Please. You look yeah, all right. Okay. Uh and I'll leave. Bro, on the keys. Bro, the keys on your keyboard. I don't understand what you mean by that. I promise. Listen, Aisha, listen to me, man. I don't know you. I don't care to know you. I don't care what you got going on. You're not a public person. If you look, if you if you want to get at me, go build a public profile. Go build a channel, right? Because otherwise, it's not really worth it for me to go after you. As a matter of fact, if you say one more thing, that is going to distract this chat, I'm telling you right now, my man, I'm getting rid of you because I'm already. You're a guy who worships pedophile. Well, nobody really worships the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? There's no worshiping in that, right? It's actually forbidden to do that. Bro, you have some suckers looking at some bullshit. I mean, well, that's your own opinion to things. All right, so we're just going to ignore Aisha right now because there's really no point in in dealing with this person. um no, good enough, my brother. I'm just being honest. So this is what I'm going to do to you right here. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna put you on a 24-hour timeout, and then as for Aisha, listen, I'm putting you out right now, Aisha. I'm putting you on a 5 minute timeout. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put you on a 5 minute timeout. You got any last words? Because remember, listen, you're the one who wants to come in here and say what you want to say. For some reason, I'm starting to lean more towards DDP after that face off fresh. Okay, so that's Zahomies. Shout out to you, man. What's cracking, Kyrie? He says, man, shout out to you, Zubs. Snipe these fools. Yeah, God bless. So, look, here's something you got to understand, right? There is a great possibility that this fight could go the distance. Now, DDP has a chin. Okay, I don't know if it's going to be that easy for Khamzat Chimaev to, put it on him in that kind of matter. Who is fighting, bro? Khamzat versus Dricuss Duplessis tomorrow. Marty Miller says, I don't care who wins. I was all in on Khamzat, but I'm starting to second guess that. Yeah, yeah. I think Khamzat is going to win. Obviously, I'm going to go for Khamzat, but at the same time, I think that I think uh, Khamzat Khamzat is going to have a hard time in this fight. Like there is no doubt about it. It's going to be a very difficult time for Khamzat. Because it's not the easiest fight in the world for him. So what do we have here? Miller says, have you seen the video of DDP submitting an entire team? Yes, I've seen that video. I've seen that video. I was thinking to myself while I was watching that video, Marty, that you know what, Khamzat could probably do the same thing. So Zahomi says, I'm not familiar with Dricuss. What's his style compared to Khamzat? Okay, so that's a good question from a casual fan's perspective, right? Let me explain this. Dricuss's style is very much, how do I say this? Very much uh, unorthodox. It's a very unorthodox style that he has going on. So, uh, the unorthodox style that he has going on is going to be, very difficult for Khamzat to read. Now, Khamzat's style is very classical, right? Classical wrestling, classical boxing. I told you guys that the way that Khamzat boxes, it reminds me of Dmitry Bivol. And the reason why it reminds me of Dmitry Bivol is because it's like a lot of bouncy, like he'll bounce while he's throwing straight shots, right? So do you have a belt in BJJ? No, I don't, Donkey Tennis. I don't have a belt in BJJ, but I am a black belt in Taekwondo. And the reason why I don't have a belt in BJJ is because I never really stayed long enough to do gi. Now, do I train specifically, like, let's say, grappling, wrestling, and submission grappling? Yes. I tend to think that that's probably sufficient enough, but I've never really put on a gi a lot for me to, actually have like gi jujitsu experiences. So yeah, Fresh Melon Juice says, yeah, I don't know at all. I think DDP is more mature and composed. Josh says, I think Khamzat is going to ride DDP around like a pony. Okay. Tekken says, I don't see. I see you don't telegraph any strikes you throw. This is a good sign. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of these people that say, oh, this, that, and the other, a lot of you don't know fighting. A lot of you don't understand what's going on. A lot of you don't understand why I have my hands down, while at range. A lot of you guys are just going to put your hands up while the guy's like 8 feet from you. What is the point of that? I mean, if you're going to go close range on someone, obviously you do this. Look, put it like this. This is the hand up, rule, right? Do you see what I just did there? So the closer that I got, I closed it in. Okay. Now the further that I leave, I can, kind of play around with my hands a little bit like this because you see what I'm saying? Like, so uh, Marty Miller says DDP said something along the lines, Kamzat is going to have a hard time figuring me out because I haven't even figured myself out. Correct. And that kind of goes into what Tekken was talking about with telegraphing, right? If you lack, uh, a telegraph, okay, this is a good sign that you're going to confuse your opponent. So Fresh Melon says, Donkey, I have a coral belt. You, okay, coral belt. Jake Furman says, Shamayev has levels, better wrestling, more pressure. The only grappling threat, strongest mentality, hardest hitter of any one DDP has faced. Only reason I'm a little nervous is because Shamayev has staff. Hopefully, I think, I think he's, probably, sort of got over that. Marty Miller says, same for me, Kyrie. I've never consistently trained in gi. Okay, yeah, man, because it's like, what, it's very niche. It's a very niche thing to do. So Fresh Melon Juice says, yeah, Marty, that was funny. Also, he's better on paper, but how do I know? I can't read. Casper Stapleberg says, as long as the fighters respect each other, may the best fighter win. I like that. You know what, Casper, I'm going to pin your comment on that one. That's a very good and positive message. Look, this is all great. All this religious banter that we're doing, all this, animosity amongst fans between Dricuss supporters and Khamzat supporters. I like it all. Man, let's do it. Let's do it up. I'm with it. Right. So yeah. But as long as we respect each other, as long as the fighters respect each other and understand what all this is. By the way, guys, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's continue on with this live stream, shall we? So Donkey Tennis says, can we see your fighting stance? What do you like? You want to see my fighting stance like right now? Like, I mean, I yeah, here. I'll just show you a few things right here. All right, so I hope that gives you a little bit of some indication right there. So okay. Marty Miller says, I didn't know he had staff. That's definitely a factor. Yeah. Zahomi says, from my perspective, I see Khamzat as a very aggressive grinder, yes, who can get explosive with good ground control. How would you compare him? How would you compare them both grappling and striking perspective? So Dricuss has a very unusual grappling style, right? I'm sorry, he has a very unusual striking style. Khamzat has a very conventional striking style. Uh, Dricuss has a very modified grappling style, right? So here's something that's interesting about Dricuss, right? For a country like South Africa, who's not like the United States, not like Japan, not like Brazil, not like Russia, all these mainstream countries, mainstream MMA countries, they figured something out on their own when it comes to takedown defense and wrestling defense, right? So something to think about there. So yeah, that's sort of how I see their differences there. Donkey Tennis says, "Did you see Reaper's draw?" No, I didn't. What about it? G International says, when you're out of range, the guard isn't needed. Save the energy and allow arms to rest and reset. Correct. Correct. That right there is, I'm going to pin that comment right there. G-Force International. Jake Freeman says, yeah, Staff looks healed, but he had it during the LA camp. Oh, man. Okay, he had it while he was in LA. Oh, snap. Okay. Man, is that a fact? How do you know that, Jake? Let me know how you know that and where your resources are, where you found that. Yeah, this is basic fight science. Yup. Yup. With a name like G-Force International Bureau of Combat Science. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that, right? Zahomi says, I can't say I'm for Khamzat 100% because I'm too familiar with his opponent. I don't like counting people out. Or are you saying not familiar? Got it. Got it. Okay. Bureau of Combat Science says your use of range in your video was great. Same-ish Wonder Boy and Machida uses. Yes, that's where a lot of my Taekwondo background has come from. And then also growing up being a fan of Prince Nassim sort of gave me that influence as well. How recent was the staff? Because antibiotics will crush your cardio. Ooh, oh my goodness. Okay, just watch TJ Dillashaw. TJ stole. No, man, I stole TJ Dillashaw style, if anything, right? Or okay, maybe you could say that because I'm older than TJ by a couple of years, but yeah, that's only a couple of years. But I tell you what, the Dom Cruz style stole. You know what? You know what it is? Training in Team Alpha Male during those times, right? Uriah, and then you had Joseph Benavidez, and then you had Cody Garbrandt, right? And then you had TJ Dillashaw. Everybody in this team, they had to try and figure out Dominic Cruz's style. So this was one way to try and emulate all of that. So, over time, it became a Team Alpha Male style because of those years of training and getting ready for Dominic Cruz, right? We had guys getting ready for Dominic Cruz, so we had to emulate him in some kind of way. Even Anthony Pettis, when he brought down his brother with him here back after he did his fight against Clay Guida. And then obviously Clay Guida came here and fought out of here after that. So Jake says, I can't tell how recent, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, looks healed now. Okay, well, that's a good sign. Donkey Tennis says, Dricuss not allowed in O Block. No, he's definitely not allowed in O Block, is he? Paul Lombard says, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so a bit of I'm not going to erase your comment, Paul, but, again, it's a low-hanging fruit type of talk. And again, it shows your intelligence and, your level of maturity. Yeah, not bad, gang. You versus Rodriguez next up. Bureau of Combat Science says you move fluidity enough to technically not have a stance. There it is, right? So I think stances, can, be fluid. But if you're flat-footed or if you remain in one particular space, then yeah, Paul Lombard with the South African flag. Are you from South Africa, Paul Lombard, or are you just a supporter of Dricuss? Let me know what that means. Khamzat's Tekken says Khamzat's grappling is highly sophisticated and he takes pride in it. Donkey Tennis says Khamzat broke his jaw. Jake Freeman says, if you go to 7:22:23 of the recent Jackson podcast, you'll clearly see the healing of the staff. Okay. Zahomi says, I see Khamzat having a bit of a Soviet boxing style base stand up, right? That is what I compared to with Demetrius Bivol. And then Homie Zubs goes on and says, I don't want to stereotype, but I saw a video of him striking and I noticed the pendulum step he had going on. Okay. Tekken says, how difficult is it to master the spinning back kick, Kyrie? It takes a certain level of, athleticism for one, also a little bit of experience. So experience and athleticism. Now, if you have never grown up doing Taekwondo and you're athletic, then yeah, I think that you could probably master it rather quickly. So Marty Miller says, I'm just messing with you about stealing your style. I know the truth. Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. But remember, that style is predicated on the fact that we had many years of going at it with Dominic Cruz. So Sheesh says, who's your pick? I'm going with Khamzat in the main event. And in the co-main event, I'm going with Aaron Pico. Originally, I was going to go with LaRon Murphy, but I feel like this camp that Aaron Pico has, and especially that he's training with Khamzat, could help tremendously. So I hope that answers your question, Ashish. So that's my picks for the main and co-main event. Jake Furman says, how will the Soviet style boxing match up with DDP's unorthodox striking style? To be honest with you, it's going to be very difficult for Khamzat. I'm not going to lie about that. It's going to be a difficult time for Khamzat. And the reason why that's going to be very difficult for Khamzat is because of the fact that he has to try and read Dricuss du Plessis. And you know what? I know a thing or two about, knowing how to be elusive with my opponent, right? So she says Pico and Armin and Khamzat in camp together is unstoppable. That's what I'm saying, right? And then they had TJ Dillashaw come in there too. So I'm going for Khamzat all the way. First of all, man, TJ Dillashaw is my homie. I've trained with that dude. I've trained with that kid. Now he's training with one of my favorite fighters of all time. I mean, listen, man, I'm Team Khamzat all the way, and I'm unapologetic for it. But hey, listen, here's the beauty about this sport, right? If you're for DDP, whether you just think he's going to win or whether you're just a fan of his or whether you're a South African national, it's all good, man. This channel welcomes it. Hey, this channel also welcomes you to speak your mind. We had somebody in here talk about, an Islamic historical fact or historical fiction, and we debated about it, and there was no problem. So this is what I offer with this channel, and for that alone, I need you guys to hit the like and subscribe button. So let me get to these comments right here. Prince Vandro says, I know a brutal way to end your opponent. It's called the Iraqi reload. Wow, what is that? What is the Iraqi reload? I've never heard of that in my life. Explain to me what that is. Zortek, first time I've seen you here. I think GDP is going to kick him right in the face when he shoots. DDP. Okay, he says GDP. I was like, man, more like our current GDP is kicking us in our face right now, huh? But that's a story for another political time. But Zortek says, I think DDP is going to get it done. GeForce International says, Africans have many grappling systems that are very popular, big events, but still in a classic presentation. Okay, Marty Miller says, don't forget the main factor, Bear Delagio. He's really a secret to Khamzat's success. I agree. Zortex says, I'm very excited to see Pico and MVP. Yes, let's not forget about MVP, man, because you know what? Remember, Cannonier was a former heavyweight, right? So would it be possible that all he would do is just maybe grind up on him and try to, control him down in any kind of way? That is a possibility right here. Khamzat uses his uppercut when DDP lowers his head and attacks with closed eyes. Okay, so Jake Furman says, to me, Chimaev's striking seems heavily reliant on reflexes. Okay, since he has great reflexes, will hurt or help him against DDP? I'm torn. I think it'll help him against DDP, right? Because obviously DDP is a very elusive and not only that, very unorthodox striker, but I think having good reflexes is really going to help him in that long run. She says, I don't see Dricuss stopping Khamzat's grappling. I don't either. I think within the first minute he's going to. And here's another thing, right? During the press conference, he said something along the lines that, hey, you know what? Uh, if I get taken down, so be it, right? Like, who says that? Now, look, I'm coming from a wrestling centric perspective where we don't like to be taken down in any kind of way, right? If we get taken down in any kind of way, I mean, it feels like an automatic loss for us. So yeah, I wouldn't exactly, be too happy with that or even claim that that could happen. But for whatever reason, yeah, he's claiming that. So okay, hopefully Khamzat dominates DDP and shuts the fans up. She says, Fresh Melody says Khamzat should use his uppercut when DDP lowers his head and attacks with his closed eyes. Jake Furman says, to me, Shamaev's striking seems heavily reliant on. Okay, we read that. I just don't see Dricuss stopping Khamzat's grappling. Tech says, I just think it's awkward. He's going to be able to weather the storm. I personally believe he will fade and DDP will get the KO in the fourth. Okay, very interesting take. Dricuss said he's going to shoot on Khamzat. Okay, now imagine that, right? Imagine if DDP decides, all right, you know what? I'm just going to shoot in on him, right? Play at his own game because sometimes the best defense is an offense, right? So instead of being takedown defense wise, maybe he uses takedown offense as a way of using takedown defense, if you know what I mean. Because if you're the one initiating the takedown, then he can't take you down, can he? So yeah, good point. No wrestlers like to be taken down ever. Yeah, well, Dricuss is an MMA fighter, right? Classically trained MMA fighter, a pure MMA fighter, doesn't really come from one particular style other than Muay Thai. But let's be honest, Muay Thai is a gateway to MMA. I fought Muay Thai and then got into MMA, and now I have an MMA channel. So there you go, right? So Fresh Melody says DDP was talking about not being afraid to implement his game, not focus on what Khamzat is doing. Marty Miller says that's how every fighter should think. Well, for whatever reason, Dricuss is not thinking that in this fight. What he's thinking about in this fight is, hey, you know what? I'm going to be, what do you call it? I'm going to, I guess, be okay if he takes me down, which is kind of, a weird flex for him, right? He says you want to be prepared for what they'll do, but you have to fight your fight. I think that's what Dricuss is doing ultimately, right? I think he is trying to fight his fight, and as a result of him trying to fight his fight, I think that yeah, I think that that's the reason why he says that he's okay with getting taken down. She says everybody has a plan until Khamzat shoots in for a double leg. Very true, very true. Everyone does have a plan until Khamzat shoots in on the legs for you, right? So AR Creative says, "Sheesh, you're right." LOL. So all right, man. We talked about Khamzat and Dricuss. Now the other detail that we're going to talk about is Dillian Whyte and Moses Itauma. So okay, let's go with this subject right here real quick. Let's Marty Miller says, true, Shees. He took everyone down in 17 seconds on the average. Yeah, that is an insane stat. All styles, G Force says, all styles get neutralized if the overwhelming force or pressure can be sustained. Then it's about techniques and physical attributes. If your PS is still online, if your PS is still online, what does that mean? Yeah, Marty Miller says, true, Shees. He takes everyone down in an average of 17 seconds. Yeah. So, all right, let's not forget we have Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte tomorrow. Let's hear what Hat Man Strikes Back, one of my favorite boxing channels, had to say about this particular fight right here. AR Creative says also Khamzat also took 0 hits the first 3 UFC fights. That's very true. That's very true. Duke McKenzie predicts Moses Itauma will KO Dillian Whyte in the 8th round. All right, let's hear what Patman Strikes Back has to say about this. At Marty Miller, MMA wrestling is insane. Also comes, yeah, yep.
McKenzie has got a fantastic prediction record, not just in recent times, but going all the way back to the 1990s and maybe even beyond that. Duke McKenzie correctly predicted that Evander Holyfield would beat Mike Tyson in the first fight. He was one of the few people on planet Earth who saw that one coming. He did it live on air on Sky Sports in the studio. Now, Duke McKenzie has made a couple of predictions for this show, several predictions for this show on Saturday, starting off with his prediction for Itauma versus Whyte. He sees it in basically an identical way to myself, coincidentally, because I put my views out on Itauma Whyte, well, at least a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when I initially broke down the way I see the fight playing out, maybe longer than that, maybe a month ago or so. So I've been saying I expect Itauma to win the fight inside 7 rounds. And while it might go earlier than that, I've said that, in my opinion, Dillian Whyte's best chance in this fight is actually early, when he's fresh and when he might be sharp enough to catch Itauma with something. I think the longer the fight goes, the more Dillian Whyte's form, the more his shape is going to start to break down and it'll get sloppy. And that's when
I agree with that. Dillian Whyte will get sloppy later on as the rounds continue, and this is where we're going to see how Moses Otama will deal with the later rounds. By the way, very similar to Khamzat, right? We all want to see two things out of Moses Otama and Khamzat this weekend. How do they deal with the later rounds? How do they deal with the championship rounds? And also, if Moses Otama gets this win at 20 years old, should he go and get a title shot after this? I mean, beating Dillian Whyte is sort of like beating a gatekeeper in the heavyweight division in boxing. So we shall see and hope that that is the case.
The much sharper, faster, more crisp punching Itauma will find it easier to catch him because Dillian Whyte has shown a pattern of that throughout the years. He'll start brightly against a lot of people, and then he starts to get sloppy because he's not the most athletically gifted guy. He's not the best coordinated guy. And when he gets sloppy, that's when he tends to get clipped more cleanly and get.
Sheesh says Khamzat is the CEO of EPO, aka TJ Dillashaw's trainer, so his cardio must be better. Oh man, sheesh. Fresh Melody says, DC, you said I can't beat Olympic wrestlers in wrestling. Khamzat, where is your gold medal? DC, I never got a gold medal. Khamzat, salam alaikum. Okay.
Get stopped. Even in fights he's won, he's ended up getting hurt or very tired later on in the fight. An example being against Joseph Parker. Another example more recently, although it was a couple of years ago now, being against Marius Wack. So it's the opposite of what the general consensus seems to be, my prediction that is, which is that if Whyte is going to win, or if he's just going to have success in the fight, it's more likely to be early. The longer the fight goes, the better it is for Itauma. That's the way I see it.
Now, how crazy is that? You're saying that the longer the fight goes, the better it is for Itauma, but the shorter the fight is, it's better for Dillian Whyte. Very similar to Khamzat and Dricuss, right? Dricuss, if you fight him all the way until the end, who knows? It may not be a very good fight for you. But this is why these are one of these fights where we find out who these guys are. We're going to find out who Dillian Whyte is in his current trajectory of his career, and we're going to find out who Moses is in his current career trajectory, where he is projected to be a future world champion. And then we're here to find out whether Khamzat can last a championship round, and also we're here to find out if Dricuss can deal with the wrestling of Khamzat. Fresh Melon Juice says Khamzat officially makes weight. Okay. Is it already? Okay. He weighs in at, wow. Okay. So okay. So the weigh-ins are already happening. Okay. Hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. The weigh-ins are already happening. Okay. So that's good to know. Did you guys see the video of Khamzat swinging DC around like a little kid? Yeah, man, that's crazy, isn't it?
In his prediction on TalkSport today, like I say, said virtually exactly the same thing, coincidentally. He says he sees Dillian Whyte again.
Okay, it should be going on, right? I thought that it was a little bit later because obviously I'm on West Coast time, but I forgot that they are, in the Midwest. So, okay, that makes sense.
He started brightly and getting gradually worn down and taken out around the 8th round.
If I had to bet on it, I would say this fight goes a few rounds, at least 5 rounds. If I had to bet on it, and I'm saying Itauma gets them out of their inside 7. Jim McKenzie says that Whyte looks jaded, or he didn't use the word jaded, but that's the word I think he was searching for. He said Whyte looks tired, he looks fed up, and I think he's looked like that for quite a while. I think he was like that in the run-up to the Fury fight. He's not as fiery as he used to be. So yeah, I think he is a bit jaded now mentally. But will he be able to raise his game and give it one last good go against the Itauma on Saturday? We shall see. And before I go,
All right. So with that in mind, guys, that is all that I really have for you right now. A couple of housekeeping notes before I go. Do not forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, but also new videos that I got out today that I want you guys to watch. History of freak show fights. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. History of freak show fights. Also, new video that I had out. UFC 185 division stacked. Okay, you would want to see this one because I got a few visuals on this one. Goes back into the history of the 185 division. A great preview for the upcoming fight that we have going on among the many previews that I've made already in this channel. So check it out. Also, my breaking news reaction to UFC signing a $7.7 billion deal with Paramount. Marty Miller says, yeah, the weigh-in show should be going on right now. Have a good day, my man. Can't wait to watch it with you guys tomorrow. Oh, man, I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. So with that in mind, guys, thank you for tapping in. And I want you to understand this, right? A couple of recaps on what we talked about today, right? I allow freedom of speech here, but I also will rebuttal you and will have a debate on certain topics. No topics here are not allowed, but I only have to do it within the limits of what YouTube is allowing me to do. But with that in mind, say what you want to say, but say it with respect and say it with dignity, but also more importantly, say it with the truth. So, in the words of one of my favorite YouTubers out there, take care of the ones that you love. Love the ones that you love, and well, yeah, you know the rest. Shout outs to Dubs. The homie Zubs is in here. He's one of the moderators for Dubs. So shout outs to Dubs and shout outs to everybody around the world. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and say it with your chest. That's right. GeForce International says, was great chatting with you again. Always remember, breathe, hold tight, and keep the feet and mind going. That's right. That's right, man. And with that in mind, that's a great way to segue this out. I'll see you guys in the next one, inshallah.